Alright guys, I would show it in person, but then I would have to use my phone to film this video because I don't really want to have to learn how to edit video because I'm not really into making videos. I just want to make it easy for myself because I'm into doing other stuff instead. So I just did this real quick. This is like a really bare bones layout diagram of my network. So you can see my ISP, my modem, my pfSense box. This is my one switch, which right now only has my web server on it. This will have like IP cameras eventually. Over here, this is my other switch, which has my FreeNAS box, and it'll have like my home theater, and then like if anybody has any consoles, it'll be they're also on this network too. And then I have my wireless, but that's not part of this anyway. And there's other stuff connected here like UPSs, KVMs, or my UPS is my KVM, whatever, my desktop and printer and everything like that. But this is the main stuff I wanted to focus on, is how I have this laid out. Right now I have a FreeNAS box. It has two onboard Intel NICs. It's a super micro motherboard, and then it has I have a network card on there with two additional Ethernet ports. And then I have the same thing here on this is my FreeBSD 10 web server. It has one onboard Realtek NIC, and then it has two Intel on a network card. So the web server has two of them going into this unmanaged switch, and then the FreeNAS box has three of them going into an unmanaged switch, and then they have one that's a direct link between these two. And then this is specifically for NFS, so that's kind of what this video is about just some tweaks I did with NFS in order to maximize performance. NFS on ZFS. So my FreeNAS box is running ZFS, obviously, and I have a data set on there. I call it files, I think, or something like that. Eventually it's going to be, I'm going to have multiple on here. This one specifically is going to be like for my own cloud instance, which is running on my web server over here. And this is going to be this will share the files over from my FreeNAS server, because my FreeNAS server has a large amount of storage, and then the web server, it doesn't. It only has two SSDs in RAID, not RAID, they're mirrored, but it has two SSDs, which is specifically just so it can like serve the web server files and the database quickly, but not the actual storage files. So it's just the way I currently have it. So I have a direct link here, and I just wanted to show those tweaks I made in order to maximize performance on that. So number one is, since I have a direct link, I don't have to worry about if the unmanaged switches can handle certain things, or if other things need to, if packets are going to get cut up. So basically you can freely set up jumbo packets or jumbo frames. So if you want to set up jumbo frames on a direct connection, then there really shouldn't be a problem, because these are both Intel NICs. They're both really new, not the latest, but pretty new Intel NICs, the EM series, the gigabit series that's on the PCIe. So in FreeBSD, you do that like this. This is that network card. You can see I have you can see right here, that's the IP address, net mask, and then I have MTU. This is the maximum. I don't know if it's the maximum. There might be a couple more bits you can get in there, but this is like what most people set their thing if they're going to do jumbo frames. So you do MTU of 9000, and then on FreeNAS you can do the same thing. I think network interfaces, clicking network, what the heck? Okay, there we go. Interfaces. Yeah, this one. Yeah, you can just set your options when you edit this. You can set options here, and you can set the MTU. So yeah, and there's a way to verify it too. If you just Google FreeBSD FreeBSD jumbo package, you'll find that. So yeah, so I verified it. I restarted the interfaces, and I got jumbo packets working. So what that does is, it normally that size of bytes would take 6 packets. So you have 6. If it's TCP, you have 6 three-way handshakes, I believe. No, maybe not. Maybe just for the connection, but there's 6 times as more headers. It shouldn't really make a big difference. It just takes more CPU, and it slightly lowers your percent utilization of your connection. But if both sides can handle it, I don't see a reason not to use a larger packet size. So those jumbo packets, that's the first thing you'd want to optimize on the interface level. Over on FreeNAS side, you obviously want your data set to have A times turned off. So you would go here, NFS, files. That's the one I'm using actually. It's called NFS files. And I just set A time. Inherit, but that's actually off because my poll pool is off. Actually, I could shut these ones off as well. Might as well put these in inherit. Whatever. Okay. So anyway, you have that. And so that's just optimizing that. And then let me show you my mount options. I think I already have this here. Well, that's just, this one right here is just to show that I have, this is the FreeNAS box's IP, and then that's the share location, and then that's mounted here on the web server. And let me show you this. This is my fstab. So you can see from here, it's the same thing, but this is how it actually mounts. So I have NFS, read write. For some reason I had to have this on there. I don't know why. Otherwise it wouldn't even work. At Noah time, which is an NFS, I think you also need to set that on NFS. Otherwise it tries to update the A times as well. These two, everyone seems to recommend because they are about like reliability, and if you have unreliable connection, and like if something drops, it'll like reconnect automatically. Which if it's a server, you obviously want that. This will maximize the read and write size for NFS packets, I believe. So that would be 32 kilobytes right there. So I think you want to do that. I tested changing all of these, and really none of them made any performance difference at all. So pretty much, if I did a DD, I could get about 100 megabytes per second read, which is about 800-ish megabits per second. So nearly line speed for reading. But then writing, I was always limited to about 40-ish. So 40, low 40s, 40 megabytes per second. So for some reason, I wasn't even getting half of the line speed, even though both of these servers are pretty quick. I mean, one of them only has a Celeron, but I was checking the CPU, one core wasn't maxed out. So my FreeNAS box has an SLC SSD for the log device. So I didn't think it would be that it was like not writing fast enough, or but then I was just reading a lot online, and it just seems like you can't really go too fast with NFS unless you do this one tweak. So this is the key thing. So you really want to set this to disabled. So if you're looking, this is on my FreeNAS box, this is the data set that I have. You want to set sync disabled. So this could potentially cause data corruption on the NFS side, not on the ZFS side. But it could cause it so that NFS client sends this command, sends a file, says sync this. Then this server gets it in RAM, sends it back to the NFS client and says, oh yeah, it's available. And then FreeNAS all of a sudden crashes. And then that file, the application server would think that file was written, but the FreeNAS server wouldn't think it's written, because once it reboots, it's not available. So it could cause some problems like that, but depending on what your data set is, it might not matter. For my own cloud files, I might actually do that because I don't really need max speed, but I am also going to be sharing, I'm going to also be using my FreeNAS server as like a place to store IP camera video files, like for my security system, and then also NZB files eventually, like if I run a NZB indexer. So those two, I don't care as much about reliability, but I care more about just getting raw line speed. So in those cases, I'll probably set this disabled. For this one, I might actually turn it back to standard, or just have it inherit what the default value is, which is standard, which means depending on what the client does. So now the issue here is the NFS clients will almost always say sync every single file. So they really shouldn't be doing that. Most file systems don't need to sync everything. Like they'll usually not force you to flush it to disk, but that's an issue with NFS and ZFS. So if you said that, then I was getting 100 megabytes per second, right? So nearly line speed. So that's 100 megabytes write, 100 megabytes read. So I figured that's about as max performance as I could get. So let me just show that. So this is on the actual thing right now. So right now this is my web server. I'm in the location that's actually an NFS mount, and I'm just gonna do a DD command to just write. This is about 6 gigs I'm writing, I think, but I'll just cancel it because I don't want to make you wait all day. But I'll just wait for a little bit just so that it flushes the cache and everything. Yeah, so if you go over here to you can see that the file that I'm writing is right there, available already. So right now it's written about 2 gigs. So you can see, yeah, here we go. So it's about 100 megabytes write, so about 800 megabits, so nearly like 80% line speed. So it's not 100%, but it's pretty decent. And so this is really the key. This doubled my thing, is the ZFS command. So if you would set that by ZFS set sync equals disabled, and then you would, whatever your data set you're going to set that for, tank NFS files in my case. So yeah, that's how you maximize NFS performance on top of ZFS. So that was a read. I guess we could try a read, though I don't know. Let's see. What the heck? File equals dev/null. Block size equals 240K. I'll just do that for a couple seconds and I'll cancel it. So now I'm doing a read test. There you go. So 94 there. I probably would have gone higher if I let it run for longer, but let's do it again. I think it needs to ramp up for a little bit. But yeah, so as you can see, you can really get pretty decent. What the heck, that was way too fast. 142, so that might have been some caching on my side, but you can see, yeah, it's really maximizing it. So that's faster than the line, so I don't know, I don't think that's possible. But yeah, there you go. Let me just remove that file. So this can cause problems, the ZFS sync disabled, but depending on what reliability you need, it is really helpful. So yeah, that was my what I've did so far. I really like this concept right here because this will allow me to not worry about other network traffic, because over this I'm going to be sending like media files, these lines, and then over these IP cameras are going to be sending a bunch of video to here to process, and then also like my web server handling requests. So this one I can maximize with files, and I like how I'm splitting off the different things. So it's kind of in a way doing some QoS for these different lines, so they're not affecting each other. But it's kind of nice that I have all these extra network interfaces to play with. So anyway, that was my just kind of tips on NFS on top of ZFS, and hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys later.